Okay, so I'll begin. So the purpose of this is a series of slides for the facilitators to explain how we can help the LGUs develop a proper strategic plan. Right. So the first thing is some background. Like normally, what I tend to do is I'll throw some background slides just for the purpose of warming up the audience or making them think a little bit before we start, okay? So I usually do something like a philosophy where we talk about laying the foundation, all right? And so the purpose of the exercise is to lay a proper foundation, because if you don't lay a proper foundation, you'll build a crooked house or wall, all right? So then we also talk about we need to get the LGU managers to understand expectations. So with IT, one of the problems is that we always sell more than we deliver.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. So I think it's an issue of expectation. So I think we need to tell the managers that, especially in information systems, we need to not oversell to mayor and council. Okay? If you oversell and you don't deliver, then it defeats the support. All right, and you'll see later on how that impacts you. Okay, and then really, in order to get results, we need to implement planning, management, and training. So those are three I consider critical components of success. Okay. And the importance of planning, so planning without action is futile. Action without planning is fatal. Okay. So we develop too many plans that is never used. So I don't want to have an exercise of planning if you're not going to have any action.
Yes.
So it's no use filling out a strategic plan if you're not going to implement it.
Yeah. Useless.
Okay? Similarly, if the municipality buys a lot of computers without knowing what they're doing with it, it's also bad. So both cases are bad. We want to implement a plan that is going to be good for the LGU. So I tend to use these triangles. You'll see a few of these triangles. So the idea of we can visualize most things as a pyramid, with the top being the best or the ultimate objective, and then we start from somewhere in the pyramid. So in say a municipality, you can say that the operational staff is at the foundation of the pyramid, okay? The management in the middle, they arrange the resources, and then the mayor and council sets the goals and policies. So it's sort of a move to the top, okay? So the responsibility and authority goes up. So I also develop what I call a sustainable cycle. Normally we go to the executive and we ask them for a budget to do something. And if the executive gives you the budget, then the managers need to manage the budget, and then the technical people implement it. So for example, if we're doing an information system plan and we get the budget, then we need the managers to manage that budget, hand it to the technical staff. Now, this is one direction. In order to make it a cycle, sustainable cycle, once the staff gets the money, say like EBPLS or whatever you're implementing, they need to produce results. They need to create the database so that they can generate revenue and report to the management. The management needs to take that information to the executive. So if money comes down one side, it has to go back up to the top. And if it happens, then you can ask for more money and you will be supported, right? Otherwise, the chances are the mayor will say, mayor and council will say, we gave you money, but you didn't give me anything, so why should I give you more money? So the other part is what I call continuous improvement. So you'll run into everything. These are not connected necessarily to ISSP, but it's just my philosophy that you've got to think about continuous improvement.
Quite a bit.
So with continuous improvement, I mean, the idea is you need to define where you are. and you need to know where you want to go. So for example, you're an LGU, you're somewhere on the pyramid, okay? The best LGU is at the top, and that's your goal. You want to be the best LGU in the world. So before you can be the best, you need to know where you are in comparison to the best. So you need a baseline, right? Once you know the baseline, you can then decide whether you want to go from the baseline to the top and how many steps you want to go. So with continuous improvement, one of the issues is too many municipalities or people tend to take the big step. They tend to say, we're here, we want to jump right to here. And they don't make it. So then they fail. Like with ISO certification, part of the thing is you need to define small steps and you need to achieve those, otherwise you lose your certification. So the idea is you want to continuously improve, but you need to learn to walk before you run. And if the gap is too big and you fail, then it's no good to anybody, right?
Double the small steps.
Yeah. So the idea is you want to continuously improve, and this is what they call change management when you dealt with the issue. So continuous improvement means you have to manage change continuously.
Sustainability.
Yeah. So it's a continuous process. So change is not
One time. Yeah, that's one-on-one.
Ongoing change. It can be small change, it can be big change. So it's up to you. I think you can make small changes so that the impact is not huge. If you make a big change, impact's great, and if it doesn't make it, then you go right backwards. So this is you've seen this one. This is the proactive and reactive slide. So a proactive person and a reactive person. Proactive person is part of the solution. Reactive person is part of the problem. So proactive person has a program of action. A reactive person always has an excuse. Proactive person says, let's do it for you. Reactive person says, I can do the job. A proactive person sees an answer for every problem. A reactive person sees a problem for every answer.
Always part of the problem.
So a proactive person says it may be difficult, but it's possible. The reactive person says it may be possible, but it's difficult. Okay? A proactive person says there ought to be a better way to do it. A reactive person says that's always the way it's been done here. And a proactive person says I was wrong when he or she makes a mistake. A reactive person says it wasn't my fault. Okay? So anyway, I guess in essence we want to work with proactive people, and we want people to be proactive, so we don't want negative, reactive people.
One thing that I could add up that my experience in that matter for action and reaction is that whenever there's an action on the technical domain, whenever you give them something to do, I immediately ask for a reaction instead of doing it on their own. Then they encounter problems already, so they go back to me.
Okay.
So most of the time, I always ask them, if you encounter a problem,
Come back up.
yeah, immediately. Don't postpone it.
Right. Okay.
This is one of the can provide this one for change management.
Yeah, you can move it anywhere. All these slides you can take, I'll give it to you, and then you can take it and decide where you want to use it, all right? And you can put it in the appropriate place. That was just my summary of all the things I usually talk about.
We can insert it in any situation that we can cover.
So again, the City of Edmonton says have experience in successful IT implementation. So they know that they're successful. Success comes from executive commitment, institutionalization, technology, managing expectations, planning, and user involvement. So we've got to keep those in mind when we do the strategic plan for IS, for information system. Okay, now the institutionalization is where I think we need to get a continuous revenue stream or budget for an information system, not a one-time project budget. There's a difference between
one time.
a project, what I call a project, a one-time thing, versus something you get annually, and where we can do with life cycle.
On a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is management. Okay, now, I think one of the gaps that I found happening with the ISSP is that most of the times the ISSP template went to just a technical guy, the IT technician.
There'll be a big difference on how they implement that.
Oh yeah.
A lot.
And I know that, VAs have, they're working with the IT people, they sit down with the IT people, they look at the template, and they give it to the IT guy. He goes to each department, asks for information, they fill in the blank, and it goes in the drawer.
They don't know the emphasis on each project that they can be connected to.
It's not strategic.
Yeah, it is not.
Okay. So, importance of management. So good management is key to getting results. Good project management is key to getting the programs completed on time and budget. That's what we do. Good management is responsible for their authority. Okay, so you not only have the the responsibility, but you also have the authority to implement. This is one big gap in information system planning in the Philippines. People are given the responsibility, have no authority. Okay? So now the good management is proactive and progressive. This is what I mean by proactive, right? So you have to, and then you also have to accept change. Then the other component is you need good management and you need training. So good training improves staff productivity. Sending the correct staff to the training results in success. So in many cases, LGUs send the wrong people to the training. Okay, because of budget and because of other reasons. It's also the fault sometimes even of the LMP Kessel stuff, is that we tend to try to put everything into 1 week of training, which really requires different people to be there. And so what happens is the one person's there but can't cover everything. Okay? So that part of it is the LGU not sending the right number of people. I mean, maybe they can't afford it. And also the people giving the training is trying to put too much into one
person. It's too much for them.
Well, trying to put everything into 1 week's training. So we're trying to correct that. We're trying to go back and say, if this is technical training, then we're trying to make it all 1 week of technical training. If it is user training, we're trying to make it user training. If it's manager training as part of the setup, then it's manager and user training. Anyway, so this we're trying to resolve. All right, so it's two sides. Now, the other part I think is important is to get the trainees to produce results through the training. So what happens is a trainee goes train, comes back, nobody asks them what they learned.
No, what we call the re-echo.
Echo, whatever. But you see, also they can't echo because if they went to the wrong training, they got stuff, training that they were not competent or capable of absorbing, then how can they echo? So that's also an issue. But certainly, if the trainee has to come back and explain what they learned, then you will know that they were unable to absorb And so then it's up to the LGU to say, okay, the wrong person went, or we need that part explained more.
That's what I'm doing right now, actually.
Okay. Correct.
I'm sending on it to the synchronity.
So I mean, you're understanding what's happening then, so that's good. So, and then we need to transfer what they learned to others.
Precisely, that's why I'm emphasizing.
Okay.
Wrong person who
it's not rocket science. So, and then in-house training. So, one of the things that we're trying to encourage now, or I'm trying to encourage, okay, is that if you go to train, then be prepared to also do more training in-house. So that if you have one user that's trained on EVPLS, when they come back, maybe they should train 2 or 3 users as well. And if you make it kind of an expectation of what happens when you go to training, then the chances are you'll improve over time. And you'll get better results and better dissemination of knowledge in the LGU. So anyway, that's the important, I think it's key. So, who do you send to training? Well, This is a question here. So this is a typical course that has been produced. So it says here, 1 week you have EPBLS, basic Linux, and user training, all in 1 week. And the LGU has to pay $15,000 plus. So if you're the mayor, you kind of look at this, or who do I send? Do I send a user or send somebody technical? Yeah. So, and I don't know how much time is user and how much time is technical. They don't explain. So the problem is you tend to send one, maybe it'll just be the IT guy. But if it's the IT person, then what does he know about the EVPLS to explain to the user that missed the training because they only sent one person? Okay? So is the IT person going to be able to explain revenue code input to the EVPLS?
He has a background to do that.
Yeah. So he doesn't have a background. So it's really critical. Now, if you send just the user, the mayor sends just the user, is the user going to be able to come back and install the Linux?
Yeah.
Problem.
It's too big for one person.
Yeah. So really what we have done is we should be 2 courses separate, maybe shorter, one 3-day and one 2-day.
Actually, one of the things that I encounter, sometimes there are 3 courses that we have to discuss, the ISSP, project management, and change management. When we then start, it's one module for training. So sometimes it's quite hard for like a planning officer and an officer to stay in a 5-day, to stay in 5 days. So much better to have a shorter one course, so you can solve much you have discussed. So you feel it on the 3rd day that they're all weary and then all.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that.
I feel that you should cater to the right people, and if it has to be shorter, then make it shorter. Okay, and I think part of this, I don't know if it's the history, because VAs come and they try to ram everything through with the one VA. Okay, so then you kind of get overkill. So yes, I think it's up to you as a group to go back to LMP and say we want shorter so that we send the right people. We don't want to have long and send the wrong people. Not only wrong people, but people kind of lose interest after a few days.
After
lose focus.
Yes, they lose focus, and then because you are on the same, like as much as possible, we had to be at least two IT discuss trainer. It's not good for the 3 module to be only one person to discuss.
Okay.
So one of the things that also came from during our discussion with Irvin, we have a brainstorming before that much better to have a shorter one module like ISSP.
I totally agree with you. Okay.
Okay.
Totally agree with you.
I think it's a good thing that I have one person from the VA side of you that so that we could.
Well, it's not the VA side that's the issue. I think a lot of this thing is nobody knows why it happened, and it's kind of become moved on and on. Some of it is money, some of it's arranging. I don't know if these guys at LNP or KESO, want to try and get as much done in one shot as possible.
Yeah, they want to.
So there's a 2-way street. I think if they want results, then they break it up into smaller modules and get the right people there. Okay? If they just want numbers, then they can make it the whole week. I think, quite frankly, you as the local trainers has to give feedback to LMP and KESO and say, this is what we really feel, and it's not coming from me, it's coming from you. I mean, I can advise them till doomsday, and it's taken me years, before they start to listen. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Okay. So step 1. So I guess I've broken this down into a number of steps. So my thing about the training, what I would like facilitators to do is, instead of looking at the template, is the first thing is look at the mayor and council, Sangunian buy-in. So you want to tell as a facilitator, the ICT manager, champion, or VA to meet the mayor and Sangunian buy-in. First step. Help define the vision for us. Okay, I mean the questions I tell the mayors when I was in Africa, you know, I worked with a municipality in Cameroon called Kumbo, and the mayor said to me, his objective is he wants to join the digital global village of the world. That was his vision for his LGU or his municipality. Okay? So I guess the question to the mayors when I meet with them is, well, what is your vision for your LGU? I mean, are you interested? Are you interested in continuous improvement? Are you interested in revenue generation? Are you interested in better service and efficiency? Or are you happy to build access roads to the farmers? If that's your priority, okay, infra, fine, but that's your choice. I'm not going to force you, and you have to decide. If you want to move, stay where you are or move on. Join the other people, or stay behind. It's your choice. So, if you do want to move on, then we want to get a commitment to a sustainable life cycle based budget for information system of 1 to 3% of the annual budget. So you tell us. You look at all your priorities, and you decide if information system is a priority or not. It's your choice. If you decide it's not, then don't waste my time, don't waste everybody's time. Use your 8-year-old computer in planning. You know, that's okay, right? So that's your choice, huh? But if you want to move ahead, we will help you move ahead, but you have to have then a commitment. So, you know, we can help you with the visioning, okay? We can, but we need a regular budget and a sustainable plan. How fast you improve will depend on the budget. So it's a continuous improvement, so how big a step we can take is dependent on your budget. Okay? We can take little steps. It's not a problem. Take very small steps, and we can take big steps, bigger steps. That's your budget. Yeah, so budget's one thing. Then the second thing we need is permanent ICT unit with staff, like permanent staff, not casual staff. Okay? Yeah. So if you have casual staff, they are not going to be around. They don't have as much interest in stake. So we want to explain project versus life cycle costing for IS. So life cycle costing is we want a steady budget. So in other words, project type budget tends to escalate every few years and then decreases, escalates, decreases. We want to balance it. In other words, we want to do it like operation and maintenance, so that it becomes a regular budget. For
budget development.
Right. Okay, and you'll see. And basically you need 1 to 3%. Step 2 is baseline inventory. So, in other words, in order to have a vision and move ahead, continuous improvement basis, we need to know where you are in order to establish where you want to go. Okay? So the baseline is we need to get an inventory of hardware, software, and HR capacity. Okay? With the hardware, we also need the age of the PC, some information like memory, hard drive capacity, operating system, what type of monitor, keyboard, mouse. Now, one of the things I've noticed is a lot of cases you have some really bad keyboards, really terrible mouse, and there are some places still have ball mouse instead of with a trackball, and it doesn't work very well. And then really old monitors. Okay, like these are CRT tubes, not LCD. Yeah. Wow. I mean old as in old big funky monitors. Okay. Some of those things you can upgrade fairly cheaply now. You know, you can still keep the same box, but getting a better keyboard, mouse, and LCD monitor, actually, the user might even think they got a new machine because they don't need everything. The thing works okay. All right. But anyway, so those are the kind of things you could do. Software used by staff, and staff capacity to use the PC for their work. Okay? So strategic planning. This step 3 then is strategic planning. So basically, when I talk strategic planning, I talk about bringing all the managers together, okay, and having a discussion.
Brainstorming.
Well, the idea is during the inventory, which goes before the strategic planning, while that's happening, okay, you then advise each manager that there's going to be a strategic planning meeting coming up. We want them to think about their needs for information system in their department, look at the people they have, look at their capability, and look at their automation needs. And maybe even MIS needs if they have some ideas.
Yeah.
Even if they have no product, some ideas of what they like. So then they get together and attend and participate in a strategic session. And this is where you need to identify where the LGU is at currently. You need to determine where they want to be in the future. You need to list the department needs. And you need to then rank the priority of each department.
And put some budget.
Yeah. Okay? So we don't want an arbitrary. See, what happens right now is that if you go project basis, it's the rich departments or the powerful departments that always get the computers. And there are departments that need computers and never get computers. They're always at the bottom. Yeah. So every year when you scramble for equipment, right, the ones that make the most noise and Mary likes, then they get all the equipment. And then the guys that should be in line to get some equipment never get the equipment. Yeah. Okay? So with strategic planning, we eliminate that. Your time will come, and then if you do it properly, it's a cycle. So this is an LGU ICT model. Now I use this model, and I would advise facilitators and VAs to use the same model to define where a municipality is.
Is it the model that NCC's?
There's a guideline model, not NCC model, it's a guideline.
Clear na? Anong oras ito start?
So this one here is it's the guidelines, and there's a digital document, okay, that I can give you. It's done by the British 8 people. Anyway, I'll give you the document too, and you can read it if you like. But the idea is I use this as a matrix for discussion with the group of managers. So we'll look at funds. So I can tell you right off the bat that most LGUs are between B and C. Okay? And most of them wanted to go to E.
Automatically.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay? You want to be at the top. So we need to define where we are here, and then we decide where they want to go. Some may want to go to D. They're happy with D, that's okay. But we want to say, where are you today? Where you want to be in the future. So this gives you a baseline. Okay, both in terms of funds, structure and personnel, desired uses, and LCE supports. Okay? So a lot of times you have LCE support, so to speak, but you're back here. So there's a disconnect. I mean, theoretically you should be all in the same column. Alright? So, introduction to strategy. So, importance of planning. So, there's broad agreement among non-profit leaders and experts that planning is a critical component of good management and governance. Most organizations understand the need for an annual program objectives and program-focused plan. Action plan. Longer range plan seems difficult. Of course it is, because it's tough, and then mayors get replaced, so it's even tougher.
The 3 terms, 3-year terms.
3-year term, okay? So I guess what we want to do, and I've had discussions, so some managers, treasurers feel that, you see, if you institutionalize the plan, SB, Sangunian Buying Council has accepted it, okay? Then if you get a new mayor, the chances of changing it is harder for the mayor. Okay?
It's already institutionalized.
It's institutionalized.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Sitting the top of the one of our project. It's there, already there.
Right.
So all they have to mayor is to implement it.
Correct. So our goal is really to institutionalize so that we can basically, regardless of the change in the office, it moves forward. Okay? So what does the ISSP include? Different kinds of plans, right? Strategic, where we are, where we're going, why, and how we'll get there. That's the model. Okay? So we use project plan is what we're trying to achieve, how we'll make it happen. So inside a strategic plan, there's probably a bunch of project plans, there's operational plans, okay? Service plans and so on. But, you know, we really kind of focus on the strategic plan steps, okay? So I think there are generally 10 steps to the strategic planning. Define the purpose, vision, mission for IS. Now, if you look at the strategic plans, they all have the vision and mission for the LGU.
Small, it's the general vision.
Yeah. No, we want more specific. So when we talk information system plans, strategic plan, we're talking about the vision and mission for information system.
For just what we're encouraging, even though it's about a two-phrase, a two-sentence will do.
Correct. So, you know, it's your vision to be more automated, you want to be connected, you want to do what? Whatever, right? Empower, provide better service, but that's that part of the, you know, not your LGU plan, which is the umbrella plan. Those is a component.
Is it better for them? Sometimes it's harder for us. Sometimes we give them a list. Is that okay?
Well, I think facilitators will have, okay, one of the things you'll see here, yes. You should have a list in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. So even though
then you can help them in the breakout, you know, and sort of make suggestions. If you feel that they're really lost, then you can prompt them.
Yeah.
Okay, but the idea is you don't want to give it to them. You want them to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
give them a little time to think and then use their mind.
Correct.
Instead of just listening and then.
Correct. Yeah. So
it's an idea.
Yeah. So the same thing will happen to all these components, right? And then you'll see that we obviously will do an environmental analysis, and there's a diagram that is always used in every one of these reports now. We can talk about it as I come to it. There's resource analysis, which we already talked about, you know, what's your computers, what's the infrastructure, what's the training capacity of your staff. Stakeholder analysis is where the managers are stakeholders, okay? Get involved, and they need to determine what they need to deliver better service, if that's your vision or whatever it is, okay? And then you need to identify opportunities or threats. Again, with LGUs, you know, like this, with businesses, you have different businesses, therefore the different opportunities and different threats. With LGUs, you tend to have the same list, and we'll discuss that.
So is it okay for them, just for them to guide? Sometimes the problems.
Yeah, you'll see.
But I'll just be giving some tips. Probably this case can be applicable to you, to the others not.
Right.
It's a matter of, but basically, they have a list of problems that are mostly the same, but some are different from the other. So is it better for them to give them something, inject some ideas?
I mean, you facilitate things. You know, you could do a lot of facilitation, so you know how to kind of get the juices flowing a little bit. And then if they come up with their choices and it's limited, then you can make some suggestions. Okay? And then basically, then they make some choices. They do the decision making, implement and evaluate the results. Okay? So strategic planning. This is undertaken with all managers in one or more sessions. This will ensure that the key stakeholders understand the plan and commit to its implementation. It will also ensure that prioritization is completed with agreement of all parties involved. So then, step one of the strategic planning is define mission, vision and mission of the IS. Okay, so they list it, they sit down and discuss it in a breakout, and they tell you what the vision is. You fill in here the blank. Okay? So an example of a mission, so you know, you can say, IC mission, automate all the departments LGU and enable us to provide more efficient and enhanced system of delivery to basic public services to the people. I mean, that's one mission. You can make it, right? But it'll be similar to this, because LGUs are basically a service.
Yes, service-oriented.
So step 2 then, with the managers, you identify where you are, like we discussed. So you say, are you a model B for funds? You know, between B and C, between A and B. So you mark this, okay? And then the structure and personnel, you do the same thing. Are you here, here, or here? And you mark it. So you will then have a, have a marked matrix, okay?
So, excuse me. So sometimes when mostly officers are not writers, that's one of the problems. So sometimes I suggest put them in a bullet point. It makes it much shorter, easier to read. Is that okay?
Yeah. I mean, that matrix is, you just list it out on the screen, and then each one would actually, you can mark it on the screen.
So from the plan it's taken from a Word. So this is a presentation that they could identify now where they are, their LGU, and then get the information and put simplify it, and in a bullet type instead of a paragraph system. That's why I'm encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, keep it as short as you like.
Yeah.
But really, all we're doing here is I want to know if you're B or C. You know, here you're in B or C, structure and personnel. Okay.
As long as the idea is there,
right.
They can deliver what they want to deliver. So it's understood.
So from the model matrix, each can determine where you are. Okay, most LGUs would be between B and C right now. When you complete, you determine where you want to be. Then you discuss. Okay, here's where you are. Do you want to go to D or E? Okay. So that would be in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your goal? So then we need to determine strategies based on your strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, and then financial. So that the mayor say you only get 1%, 0.5%, no percent, or 2%, even better, right? So part of the environment, this environmental diagram is interesting because it relates everything the LGU deals with, or every agency, every entity, which is great, but then, I don't know how much of this relates to the information system part.
To some extent, the LGU, the one that we are training, our participants are, the only thing that, so most of the time if you have like the ADP, the first program that's being introduced, it will crop up to other certain reports that some agency might need. So on information on establishment, like in businesses, you can use it on disaster, you can use it on Department of Trade and Industry, on using the profile. So you can use a lot of that certain.
I mean, there's a certain kind of sequencing that is normal. Okay, so in a way, then an environmental diagram is really interesting, but I don't know the significance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suggest in this one, it's too cluttered on my it's too cluttered.
Just simplify it, I think.
Yeah, simplify it. We have certain level, like on the provincial, what are the departments on the municipal level, on the provincial level, on the regional, and the national. So probably on the environmental diagram, the national level. So they have this diagram that all the agency will be there, not into all one. All those are cluttered into one, all the agencies that you are coordinating in the national, provincial, region.
Right.
So I suggest that it just probably that to provide a diagram for each area. So it's much more easier to read, easier to understand, and the level of coordination on this department is much better.
But again, this is related now to information system needs.
It's more on how to interpret.
I understand, but I think what we want to do is look at it from an information IS point of view. So it really simplifies it even more. Okay? I mean, these are all the agencies and how you deal with it. You may fill out forms, manual, but if it's not going to be changing to automated, then that's not part of the issue for information system implementation. Today anyway. Right? Maybe in the future you'll have automated forms or a way of dealing with it. There are some agencies now that already have automated interaction. So those are the ones you need to consider. Okay?
Which agency to start with?
So Then the next one is resource analysis, okay? So we need to know the existing situation. So the relationship with an org chart between departments, okay? Your resources, manpower, how many people are, what is the software, hardware requirements?
The environment itself.
Within the organization itself, okay? So that's your resource. That's the inventory and all people. And you throw in the org chart, so that tells you a certain organizational structure, and it determines all the departments. Okay? So from that, you can then generate the resource, which is the inventory. Okay? So computers, printers, scanners in each department. Now, in addition to this, you need to break out the age of the computers.
The details of everything.
And the details.
Yeah.
Okay? So the age of the computers is what we need because we need to know how old in terms of the life cycle costing. We'll see later. Okay, so the other resources is the support, the infrastructure, you know, who are the hardware vendors locally. Do you buy from Manila? Do you need support? If something goes wrong, you know, you're 2 hours away, is there going to be a problem? If it's cheaper in Manila, but you don't have the support, then is it going to be more expensive overall? So you might be better off to buy from a local vendor and pay the surcharge, because you can go back to the vendor to deal with, you know, maintenance and warranty and everything. So, and then are there technical colleges nearby for training in certain areas, like Microsoft Office or something like that, Excel, databases, okay, and so on. Right. So those are part of the resource kind of thinking.
In the outside of the building.
Yeah, outside, yeah. So then the stakeholder analysis. So the stakeholder analysis is kind of critical. This is really part of the strategic part. This is where all the departments together identify the needs. And then you break out, or you then get back together, and then you discuss what they think they have right now. Are they adequately covered? Have they been badly neglected? And then the future needs. Based on if you're going to Model E, what's the future needs going to be? All right? Yeah. So that would include, you know, not just hardware, but training and systems that they're going to put in place. Okay? So now the other example, an example of output during the discussion is shown in the next slide. So an example of the ranking is also shown. Okay, so you use Manila. So this shows you number of computers in the total, like this is existing, proposed, total.
That's the same, the one that I use in mine.
Fine. So you can do that or do something different. And then we also, in addition to, say, the budget office, they don't have any computers, give them one, and then total one. Okay? But we rank them because they've been neglected. For example, in the past, they have now got a high priority of need. So they're ranked A. So you can rank from A to D or A to E depending on how you want to look at the life cycle. I would tend to say that we are looking at a life cycle of probably between 5 and 6 years of replacing the computers.
It's a good years.
Yeah. Okay, now I've been in LGUs where the planning department is using a 7-year-old computer. By the time we finished the exercise and their ranking was so low that they would be 10 years old before we replaced the computer. Okay? Now when that was presented to the mayor, he actually said he was willing to increase the budget to speed it up.
Yeah.
Okay? So I mean, this is like part of the strategic planning. So, you know, the mayor committed to 1%. By the time we showed them, because some municipalities are further behind, therefore it takes them a bigger jump to get back to where you are than the others that are more advanced already spent the money. Okay? So the ones that have not spent the money really has to take longer, even though they're in the same position as. Okay? So by coming up with the same budget, but you're starting from further back, you won't get there at the same time.
Yeah.
It take longer, all right? So these are the new hardware requirements based on ranking. Okay, and each group will have different ranking. I guarantee you. Okay.
Depending upon the
Right, because,
situation.
yeah, because the ones that have been neglected now with strategic planning will move up. Okay? So, then we want to undertake a SWOT analysis. Okay, so the SWOT analysis, there's a matrix. So you can use this matrix to discuss and break out and discuss the strength, weakness, opportunity, strengths. Again, the municipalities are all the same, so that you will only have a finite number of these and they are common. So for the facilitators, I think I have a list of what we already have, and you can add to the list. And if they don't have it on the list and you think it's an important point, then you can include it. Okay? But this is a typical breakout list. Lack of trained personnel, low usage of conversion to soft copy, manager does not know how to manage projects. Okay? So these are very typical things. Threats, viruses. We know all about viruses in Guava. Staff leaving after training, sustainability of the facility, support of new elected officials. So that one here is if you, as we said, if you institutionalize it,
it wouldn't be a problem.
then it eliminates that problem. Then it's no longer a threat, it's lessened. Okay? So we can identify the threat and look at a solution to the threat. Okay? So how can we maximize and use our strengths? How can we overcome the threats identified, right? What do we need to do to overcome the weaknesses? How can we take advantage of our opportunities? Okay? So step 7, so identify strategic choices. So one of the critical things that I see in my experience is there is a huge need to create an ICT unit, okay, regardless of budgets or anything else. If we don't have an ICT unit, you can also forget the plan.
Mostly that's because of the personal selection cap. Because most of the time you have noticed that we are labor intensive. We have a lot of personnel.
Yes, you have a cap and you can't hire permanent staff.
What we do is within the organization, take all this personnel which are doing right now, and then get them because there are too many in one office, and then try to train them, and then initially create a designation from them or a unit, and then to a memorandum from the mayor that will be created.
Okay. Again, I think this has to be pushed not from one person but from all the units. Okay, that's why it becomes a strategic plan. Is that you guys as managers have to push.
In the long run, you have to institutionalize it and have it. They call it created. Because if one mayor doesn't like that, or he doesn't like the one sitting in that position, he can easily dissolve that because it's not integrated in the plantilla.
And then so I think the permanent position is to me critical. And the ICT unit with a permanent position is critical. Now the other part that is sometimes a problem is that many times the ICT unit, not the ICT unit, the ICT person happens to be a technical person under the assessor's office or the treasurer's office.
Has to be one designated for that.
The problem is the ICT unit has to serve all departments. When you have it under one department as a casual employee with some talent maybe, but it's answerable to the manager of the department and not the LGU as a whole, it becomes a problem.
It has other priorities.
So in order to overcome that, I think you need an ICT unit. Now if the ICT unit happens to be weak or happens to have a casual staff, then I think it's important to have more than one that learns the craft. Okay? In addition, I think if the ICT unit is weak, you need a committee, an ICT committee of managers.
A support.
To support it, If the ICT unit is strong as a permanent employee, then maybe you don't need. I mean, it's up to you. The ICT committee is recommended where there's a need for managers, you can't get all the managers together every time, so you need a smaller,
an executive committee.
yeah,
we
group
call it
to do that.
3 to 4 person.
Yeah, correct. So you can even decide whether you want to connect to a network. Like I've seen so many of these plans that everybody's networked, whether they need it or not. Okay? So I don't think that makes sense. I think it makes sense to say maybe you want to network one department, but I think you need to ask the question, do you really need to connect everybody? Does everybody really need the internet? Okay? There's a difference between a wish and a need.
Yeah.
Okay? So everybody wishes to have everything, but do you really need it?
Yeah.
And then I think it's going to be staged, so eventually it's going to come. But if you try to do too many things, remember the gap in continuous improvement.
I'm experiencing it.
Yeah. You will have a problem, and then it will fail, and then there won't be success, and then you can't deliver it, your expectations exceeds the results. All the bad things happen.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think the issue here is to really take it into small chunks and say, okay, we can do one department if it's necessary. Maybe the one implementing EDPLS, okay? Or if you're implementing ERPTS, that's another chunk.
Okay.
Okay.
Within one piece by piece.
Little piece as projects, MIS projects move forward, rather than try to. Okay.
Too much.
And if you need internet, then maybe you have an internet center somewhere where staff can go do research. They don't need it on their desk. My opinion.
No, your opinion is correct. We have the same opinion. I had the one committee in the SB that he said that we have a firewall, provide the firewall, because one of the things now that's being pushed to by the national government is to limit the use of Facebook, the use of Twitter. Probably internet will do, but we have a certain offices or one or two in office that is already connected. That's it, but not all of them.
Right.
So we are trying to push it, but I need a really good server for that. I have the support from one of the SP officers.
Okay.
So I included one big server for the budget for next year.
Okay. Good. So, as we said, the critical components of the ICT unit, if the LGU aspires to migrate to a Model D or Model E LGU, it will need a formal unit with at least some permanent ICT technique. Okay? ICT needs to be managed by a senior manager who has authority with
the responsibility.
If it's not possible, then an ICT committee. This is what we just said.
That's a new addition. I mean, if the week, as you said, the ICT committee will do from a group of officers.
Right. So the other one is infrastructure requirements. So you need to determine the networking needs. Do you really need it? Okay, and do you need internet for everybody like we discussed? And then you look at the floor planning for structure so that determine what needs are. So the project action unit. So with implementation of say EDPLS or ERPTS, there's the recommended formation of a project action unit. So a project action unit is 2 or 3 senior managers from the unit. One of them may or may not be the project manager. If they're not, then they may assign somebody to be a project coordinator. Okay. And they need to then manage the project coordinator. PAU is the authority, has the authority and responsibility to oversee the project. Okay? So that they can then determine if the project is proceeding correctly. Right? So training requirements. This is, to me, a critical component in terms of success of an information system strategic plan. All right, if you don't train the people, there's no use putting computers in.
They are classified as glorified typewriters.
Yeah, that's right. So I think you need to, as part of the project costing, life cycle costing, and building.
Not only on the hardware, but also the software.
So the strategic decision making is what is the life cycle cost for the plan, what is the sustainable budget, And then what is the time frame for implementation? So life cycle costing is, you know, in North America, there's a lot of, you can write off a computer in 3 years. And most companies probably replace a computer every 4 years in North America. Now, when you do the ISSP here, I noticed that nobody is taking into account the replacement of existing computers. They just add new ones. Okay? So, but what about the old ones that need to be upgraded or replaced? Which nothing is accounted for. Right? So life cycle costing includes consider the need to replace obsolete equipment with new ones. Right? So this is 3-4 year cycle. Maybe you can consider 4 to 5 years. Okay? So I'm looking at an exercise LGU Ultimo. That's my name. It doesn't exist. Okay? So the managers say have completed an ISSP for LGU Ultimo. Mayor Uno, the Singapore Binders agreed to provide an annual budget of 1 million pesos. So the inventory of existing equipment together with the prioritization of new equipment and training have been included in the following slides. So we say that we will use this as an example of how LGUs can optimize life cycle. So here's a list of the computers in LGU Ultimo. 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years. Now we're using a 4-year life cycle, which means then that we have computers 5 years old, so every 4 years we're adding now 14 computers that we haven't replaced into the 4th year, so it's 24 computers. Similarly, we've done a ranking, prioritization, okay, so this will be year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, okay. So this is training. Office, Microsoft Office, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, GIS, data management, GPS, CAD, web design, estimating. This is engineering. EVPLS, ERPS, and GUS.
All the required MIS.
Whatever, well, for this LGU. That's what they decided they're going to do. Right? So each LGU, then, if you're doing this, you need to decide on the unit cost. So we are looking at PC workstation, laptop, handheld. Now you can refine this. This is just what we use for the exercise, right? So detail, you decide on detail. So this is now, if we have what we needed for the new plan. This is the replacement for the 4-year cycle. So you know there's a huge jump, 39, 20, 18, 19. Yeah. But then in year 5 we go back to 39 again. It's the time we replace these ones. Okay? So training, again, because we're doing more training in year 1, there's a pent-up need. Year 1 then jumps to 2 million. Now we had a budget of 1 million. So we notice there's 2 million, 8, 6. So when we do life cycle costing now, we need to balance this. So we need to take some costs off year 1, put it into year 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So then this requires some iteration at the manager's level. Because now some people may not get new computers. So again, we look at the priority and start to move things around. And this is where you have a strategic decision making. Okay? So the goal is, you see, using a 4-year life cycle, 4 or 5 year, you need to replace new computers, 24 units. This increases the cost, as I've said. Shows how the units goes 39, 20, 18, 49, Ideally, the number of units should be around 21. If you average the 80 computers, if we were able to buy 21 computers every year, the cost for the hardware is now level. So now we may need to keep the existing computer a little longer in order to balance it out. Okay? So we can be more selective about, or keep the good, better units longer and get rid of the really bad units. Okay? So if we do that, then we now replace 7, 15, 20, 19. We balance it out to around 20 every year. So we still end up with 1.5 million, 900, okay? But you can see it's starting to level off. So what this means now is that we have leveled off the equipment, so we now need to reallocate the training. Okay? So eventually we need to move, so although we have a pent-up need of training a new one, we can't afford it with the money. So we push some of those back year 2 and 3. Okay? So by doing that, then I think if you do another iteration with the training adjustments, we'll end up at 1 million roughly. So we can then go back to the mayor and say, okay, this is the implication. We would like to have done all that, but it will cost 2 million. The life cycle costing, we've now adjusted it, and with the new plan that all the managers agree on, and the scheduling of equipment replacement, we can now live with a 1 million peso. Now, in some cases, if it's too low, you'll find that when you do this exercise, you actually got to push back 5 to 6 years. Life cycle. Yeah, you can't do it in 4 years if it's not enough. So what it means is, you look at that and you say, oh, geez, with the budget that I'm allocated, it's actually going to take 7 years. I need a life cycle of 7 years.
But sometimes, one thing that I will put a clincher on, if the EPP's income generation went up, I will have a certain amount for that, specifically for that project alone, like improvements. If and when the project pushed through.
Well, there's different ways, and different treasurers do different things. But anyway,
it's a strategy.
It's a strategy. So the idea is, the concept is, what can we live with, and what is the implications of that?
On the certain budget that they provide.
I mean, you can't, I don't think you can live with just equipment, no training.
There has to be a balance.
Yeah. So, you know, if you throw out training, then what's the point of equipment, right? So you'll see that the balance of training and equipment is roughly 600 to 300,000, 60-40, 70-30, between hardware and training. It's a sustainable.
But it depends upon the situation as well.
Yeah, and the further back you are, the more it's going to take.
The more budget you will need.
So by adjusting, so this really shows that you can level off a life cycle cost of about 60,000 for equipment and 300,000 to 400,000 for training. Okay, and so I will give you a spreadsheet to use, and you can give it to the people. They can actually use those numbers and come up with their own scenarios, so that they get an idea of how to apply it to their GU. Okay? And you can discuss the iteration. So implementation. So the need of implementation is create an ICT unit, get a permanent staff, create ICT committee, follow the plan, create a detailed annual plan. So from those iterations, what you come up immediately is what do you do next year, based on the revised accepted plan. Okay? And then you know what you can do the following year, but you have to track that. So if you buy more or buy less, have more training, then some will move around. So you need to always show what you're doing this year, what you plan to do next year, and then continuously adjust and advise the mayor and council what's happening. Right?
Reporting.
Then you have a real ISSP, not the ones that we're currently producing and dumping them. Okay? So the managers, the ICT committee needs to push for action. Otherwise, update and action. And so as a manager, then you should say, okay, I'm going to come back and report to the group. And then you need to define indicators. So the indicators may be, if our action plan says that we will do 20 computers, so many printers, okay, and do so many units of training. So your indicator, that's your indicator. So you measure next year. What did you actually achieve?
You have a background on the previous year, so on how you will progress on the next year.
Right. So if you do the measurement, then you need to adjust and update the plan. So if you bought, you find you've got enough equipment, then maybe buy less. If there's a change, you need to buy more. Okay?